You drift in the silent abyss between the stars, where darkness stretches on forever, and starlight comes only in faint, distant glimmers. The void around you is vast and calm, an endless night that holds its breath. In this place, far from any world, there is a profound quietude, not a total silence, for you hear the soft hum of your spacecraft's systems and the gentle thump of your own heartbeat in your ears, but a silence of the external universe. No wind, no engines firing at the moment, just the subtle vibration of life support and the low electric whir that reminds you that your tiny bubble of life is moving through a sea of nothingness. Specks of light pepper the cosmic darkness. Countless stars, each one a sun, are scattered across the black velvet expanse. Most are too remote to be anything more than pinpricks, yet collectively they form a majestic backdrop. A swath of the Milky Way's distant arms spills across the sky like a gossamer veil of pale light. You see hints of blue and orange among the stars, young blue giants and older red dwarfs, their colours so faint out here that they only softly tint your vision when you stare long enough. There is no bright day or night cycle in the interstellar void. The starlight is constant but dim, like an eternal twilight in deep space. Inside your vessel, you float weightless, free from the pull of any planet or sun. With engines idle, the ship coasts on momentum, and you let yourself glide gently in the cabin. Your body relaxes, muscles releasing tension as you adapt to the sensation of drifting. Every movement is slow and deliberate, as if any sudden motion might disturb the quiet reverie of space. You push off a wall with the lightest touch of your fingertips and hover toward a broad window, an observation port made of crystal clear material. Pressing your palms lightly against the cool pane, you gaze outward. Beyond the thick transparent shield is the infinite night, and reflected faintly in the glass is your face. Calm, eyes searching the void with a sense of wonder and introspection. Perhaps there's a ghost of a smile on your lips, or perhaps just a look of quiet awe. In the reflection, starlight glints in your eyes, making it seem as though your own gaze holds tiny galaxies within it. Your breathing is slow and measured. You are aware of each inhale and exhale, the air recycled by the ship's faithful systems. A small indicator on a nearby console pulses gently in sync with the rhythm of your breathing, a reminder that all is functioning normally. Green lights, steady and reassuring, tell you that your life support is stable, your path is true, and all is well in this tranquil moment of the journey. The ship is on autopilot for now, giving you this chance to simply be, to exist in the midst of an expanse so large the mind can hardly grasp it. Occasionally, a tiny particle of interstellar dust strikes the hull, producing a delicate ping that resonates through the structure. These minute sounds are almost musical in the silence. Each one arrives unpredictably, a little note in the cosmic stillness, then fades. You find yourself attuned to them, noticing how even in emptiness there are small reminders that you are moving, travelling at an immense velocity, even though it feels as if you are standing still. Out here, without atmosphere or landmarks, motion is only apparent when you look at instruments, or see the very gradual shift of star fields over long periods. There is no sensation of speed, yet you know you are hurtling across the galaxy, thousands of kilometers every second, a lonely voyager between suns. Time itself feels different in the interstellar gulf. It stretches and bends, not physically, though you know at near light speeds it truly does. but in your perception. Moments of contemplation like this seem to float outside the usual flow of time. With no sunrise or sunset to mark the days, you measure time by your own routines and by the subtle ticking of onboard clocks. But right now, you let even those measurements go. It doesn't matter what hour or day it is. It only matters that here you are, present in this scene of cosmic serenity, wide awake yet dreaming with open eyes. You recall how, back in the realms of planets and cities, every day was filled with noise and urgency. Voices, engines, storms, and the constant pull of gravity tying you to the ground. Here, in contrast, is pure stillness and freedom. There is loneliness, yes, but it is a tranquil loneliness, a solitude that feels more like the company of the stars than an absence of others. In this solitude, you find a kind of kinship with the sparkles of light years away. Each star you see could host worlds and perhaps life, but at this distance, they are simply your silent companions on the journey. The nearest star to you right now is so far away that its light has taken decades to reach your eyes. You might consider for a moment which star it is. Perhaps it is a dim red dwarf out on the fringes of known space, or a bright giant from the galactic core whose light has wandered through dust and darkness to find you. Out here, the familiar constellations you knew from Earth have shifted and warped. Perspective changes the patterns. The stars that made the shapes of ancient heroes and creatures in the sky are now at new angles, their once familiar outlines unrecognizable. You are viewing the night sky from a vantage point few humans, if any, have ever seen. From here, humanity's old pictures in the sky are but a memory. You are free to imagine new patterns among these stars, new stories, connecting dots that no one back home could ever link. Slowly turning yourself in mid-air, you take in the panoramic view afforded by the large window wrapping around the observation deck. Above, though above, has little meaning now. You catch sight of a faint glowing band, the central plane of the Milky Way galaxy. It arches overhead like a distant bridge of light. Within that band, dark lanes of cosmic dust cut across the starlight, forming delicate, lace-like patterns in the glow. Those are distant nebulae and star-forming clouds silhouetted against the combined radiance of billions of stars. The sight is humbling. Each faint sparkle is a sun, possibly with its own planets, moons, and mysteries. And there are billions. The scale is almost beyond comprehension, yet it doesn't overwhelm you. Instead, it calms you, as if by acknowledging the vastness, your own worries and thoughts become small and quiet, fading into the great backdrop. Your fingers lightly trace a path on the glass, connecting a trio of stars in your field of view. It's a new constellation that exists only for you in this moment. Perhaps you give it a name, something softly spoken into the hush of the cabin, if only to hear a voice in the silence, even if it's just your own. The sound of your voice is oddly soothing here, absorbed by the walls and mixing with the steady hum of the ship. You say the name of the pattern of stars you have chosen, and the word lingers for a moment, then dissipates. The stars remain, glinting impassively, as if they too heard the name and will remember it in their own distant, unhurried way. Drifting away from the window, you turn to a console where a holographic display is slowly rotating, showing a three-dimensional map of local space. Delicate lines and points of light represent the stars around you in dozens of light-years radius. The one labelled Sol, your sun, the star of origin, is far behind you now, so distant that it barely registers as a tiny tag on the hologram, perhaps even beyond the current frame of the map if you have travelled far enough. The thought of that is both bittersweet and inspiring. You have ventured farther than anyone from that little blue world, out into the great unknown. In this moment, you are an explorer of the purest kind, untethered from any home except the ship that carries you. The map glows with a gentle blue hue, casting faint light onto your face as you inspect the plotted course. Ahead of you, many light years away, there are a few highlighted points, perhaps waypoints or destinations charted long ago. But between here and there lies a whole expanse of nothing in particular. Interstellar space, the gulf between stars. It is in this gulf that you now wander, and though it appears empty on the chart, you know it is not truly empty. It's filled with invisible fields, particles, the gravitational influences of unseen masses, and the potential for discovery. You notice a small marker on the map indicating a nebula some distance off your course, a haze of gas and dust noted by explorers or probes before you, likely a stellar nursery or the remnant of a supernova. It's slightly off the direct path, but in the void, detours are often welcome. Perhaps in time, you will decide to veer toward it, to see its diffuse colours with your own eyes, but that will be later. For now, you remain on this calm trajectory, content to be exactly where you are. A gentle chime sounds from the console, a reminder that it's time for a scheduled systems check. The sound is soft and melodic. By design, all alerts on this ship are tuned to be gentle, almost musical, to maintain the tranquility of long voyages. You glide to the control panel, glancing over readouts of temperature, pressure, fuel reserves, navigation updates. Everything is nominal. The ship is healthy, and so are you. You acknowledge the status, and the chime fades away, leaving you once more in quiet. For a moment, you close your eyes and simply feel the isolation and freedom of this moment. With eyes closed, you sense the subtle vibrations of the ship. You hear the faint buzz of electricity running through circuits behind the walls and the ever-present sound of your breath. You imagine that instead of metal and technology surrounding you, it is the cosmic night itself that cradles you. In a way, the ship is just a shell. You are truly floating in space, protected by only a few inches of material from the raw vacuum outside. That thought might once have been frightening, but now it is almost comforting. You are intimately connected to space, separated only by a thin boundary, like a fetus in a womb separated from the world by a thin membrane. The stars beyond are distant, yet their light reaches you, passes through the glass, falls on your skin. You are bathing in ancient starlight, photons that have travelled years to meet you here and now. When you open your eyes again, you catch sight of a particularly bright star, just coming into view on the left edge of the window. It might be one of the nearer stars to your current position, perhaps bright enough to show a tiny disk or a hint of colour if you use a magnifier. It shines steady and clear, not twinkling at all, for there is no atmosphere here to make it flicker. Its light is a clean bluish white. You recall from your star charts that a star of that colour and brightness could be a young, hot sun, maybe an A-type star, or a rare luminous object in this sparse region. The idea that you are seeing it raw and unfiltered is enchanting. As an experiment, you float over to another panel and tap a control that filters the observation window to enhance certain wavelengths. The view subtly shifts, and now you see the star with a slight halo, perhaps a diffraction artifact or the outline of something around it. You realize the ship's sensors are also registering that star, cataloguing its spectrum, analyzing it out of habit. Data streams quietly on a side screen, numbers and graphs translating the starlight into information. The star's identity appears in text, a catalogue number, some basic characteristics, distance, luminosity. It has no proper name that humans have given. It's one of the countless stars known only by coordinates. But here, face to face with it across light years, you feel it deserves a name, even if only in your own records. You speak softly, christening this star with a name of your choosing, perhaps something that reflects what you see or feel about it. Aurora, you might call it, for its pale dawn-like light, or solitude, in honor of this shared solitude between you and the star. Speaking the name aloud in the emptiness of your cabin, you smile. It feels as though you've made a friend out here, in your own imaginative way. Of course, the star doesn't hear you, doesn't know you. And yet this act of naming forms a connection in your mind. You will remember this star and carry its memory forward. Perhaps one day, far in the future, someone else will pass this way, and you could tell them, "I once named that star." Perhaps no one ever will, and it will remain a secret between you and the silent cosmos. Your mind wanders easily in this setting. For a time, you just let thoughts come and go, not latching onto any particular one. They drift through your awareness like the motes of dust floating through a beam of light. Thoughts about the past, the future, the sheer distance and mystery around you, they all float in, then dissolve softly. You notice how different your mind feels here, compared to the frantic buzz that life had when surrounded by other people and endless information. Here, your thoughts have space to stretch out, to echo, to intermingle with imagination and dream. It is a luxury and a necessity on such a long voyage. To be comfortable with your own mind, to find companionship in your own reflections as much as in any other presence. Through the window, another tiny flash catches your attention. A brief streak of light. For a second, you wonder if you imagined it. But then you see another at a slightly different angle. Tiny meteoroids, perhaps, zipping by at incredible speed relative to you, igniting in a flash of plasma as they graze your ship's shields, or the thin outer atmosphere that extends for many thousands of kilometers around any object in space. They are like shooting stars, but here you are among them rather than under them. Instead of appearing as falling stars in the sky, they are lateral, swift sparks in the darkness ahead and aside. You watch a few, appreciating that even in the emptiest stretches, there is still occasional debris, remnants of ancient cosmic events, particles from a comet that passed this way millennia ago, or fragments from the distant explosion of a star, now dispersed and wandering. Their sudden appearance and disappearance remind you of the transience of things, but also add a gentle dynamic quality to the static scene. Eventually, the flashes cease, and you find yourself yawning slightly, the gentle darkness and the quiet making you feel pleasantly drowsy, not yet ready to sleep, but fully relaxed. You pull yourself away from the window and decide to make a warm drink to sip while you continue gazing at the stars. In the microgravity, preparing something as simple as tea or coffee is a mindful task, done slowly to avoid spillage. You heat water in a secure container and watch as the liquid forms a floating sphere when released from its pouch before you guide it into a drinking vessel. The novelty of such things hasn't entirely worn off. There is still a childlike wonder in seeing water behave this way, forming perfect globs that you have to capture. It's a reminder that you are indeed in a place very different from the world of your birth. With a hot drink secured in a sealed mug, you make your way back to the observation seat, a padded chair that can swivel to face any direction. You tuck your feet under a strap to anchor yourself so you don't drift away, and then take a careful sip. The taste is comforting, a small luxury in the vast emptiness. The warmth spreads through your body, a pleasant contrast to the cool air of the cabin. For a while you just sit there, anchored lightly, sipping and watching the slow ballet of starlight outside. The ship will continue like this for perhaps hours or days, without need for intervention, cruising silently. You have time, nothing but time. As you float there, your mind continues to wander, like the ship itself wanders through space. Perhaps you wonder if anyone back home is looking up at the night sky at this very moment, seeing the same stars, albeit from a completely different angle, and thinking about you. It's unlikely anyone can see you or know where you are now. You're far beyond the naked eye, or even most telescopes' range from Earth. Yet the thought that the sky connects you to every other soul that has ever lived under it brings a sense of connection. The starlight falling on you now will continue on, travelling endlessly, maybe one day reaching some observer's eyes far behind you. In that way, perhaps you become a part of someone else's stargazing moment, even if they don't know it. You and they share the starlight for an instant, separated by unfathomable distance. A gentle contentment fills you. Out here, separated from everything familiar by light years of distance, you find that the ache of isolation can transform into something else. A deep and peaceful appreciation for existence. You feel small, yes, but not insignificant. Rather, you feel intricately connected to this enormous cosmos, as though being so far removed from the crowded world has allowed you to sense the subtle threads linking you to all things. Your thoughts, your presence, even your vessel's tiny movements are now part of the grand cosmic dance, like a single note in a great symphony. The stars twinkle faintly, and you imagine each twinkle is like a note of music, a distant chime that only the universe itself can hear in full. You listen closely with your mind and heart, and in the silence you almost think you can hear it, a faint cosmic melody carried on the solar wind and the light beams, resonating at frequencies beyond human hearing. But there, nonetheless, a harmony of existence. In this quiet moment, you are both the observer and a part of the observed, both traveller and a fixture of the scene, like an ephemeral satellite drifting with no destination but the journey itself. The interstellar void around you, though dark and vast, feels almost like a warm embrace now, like an old friend wrapping you in an infinite, gentle hug. And within that embrace, lulled by starlight and silence, you continue wandering the interstellar dreamscape, content and at peace in the endless night. Time on the ship flows in a gentle, unbroken stream. You settle into a routine that feels both timeless and essential, a way to mark the passing of days, even when days have lost their usual meaning. In the morning, or what you call morning by the ship's clock, the cabin lights brighten slowly, mimicking a soft dawn to ease you into wakefulness. You wake from a slumber that is light and dreamless, or sometimes filled with distant stars that follow you out of sleep. Untangling yourself from the cocoon of your sleeping bag strapped to the wall, you float freely for a moment, enjoying the calm of waking up in zero gravity. Your limbs stretch out into space, unconfined, and you feel a small thrill of freedom at starting another day among the stars. Personal rituals become anchors of sanity. You perform a few slow stretches and exercises, hooking your feet into loops on the floor to give you leverage. Each movement is careful and fluid, a kind of dance with the invisible currents of the ship's air. Muscles that could atrophy in microgravity need tending. And so you move through practiced motions, gentle push-ups against a wall, curling and extending your arms with elastic straps, slow breathing exercises to focus your mind. As you exercise, you count softly or hum an old melody. The sound of your voice keeps you company, echoing faintly in the small compartment. There's an old song from Earth that you remember, perhaps a lullaby or a folk tune about wandering, and sometimes you find yourself singing it quietly as you move, the words floating out into the silent ship. There is no one to hear it but the recycled air and the listening stars beyond the hull. After exercise comes breakfast, a simple, solitary meal. The food is stored in packets and pouches, designed for long shelf life. You've grown accustomed to the textures and tastes, even if they are far from the fresh foods of home. In weightlessness, you must eat carefully, using Velcro patches to hold utensils and packets in place. A spoonful of rehydrated fruit oatmeal glistens in the air as you guide it to your mouth, and the sweetness on your tongue brings a small, contented sigh. As you eat, you float near a smaller porthole, gazing out at the starfield, watching as you slowly spin or drift. Sometimes you talk softly, pretending you're sharing breakfast with an old friend or a loved one, describing what you see outside as if they were there. You talk about that bright star in the distance, or the way the cosmic dust made tiny streaks of light earlier. It's a quiet monologue, and you know it's just you. But in this solitude, it helps to speak aloud, to keep the loneliness from turning into something heavy. Your voice makes the emptiness feel a little more cozy, as if the ship were a small home where conversation still lives in the walls. When the meal is done, you tidy up methodically. Every wrapper and droplet must be secured. You take care that nothing escapes to float away into a crevice. Cleanliness and order are your companions too. They keep your mind clear. After stowing the breakfast items, you run through a brief checklist of the ship's systems. It's become almost like a litany or prayer you recite each morning. Power levels, check. Oxygen and nitrogen balance, check. Water reserves, check. Navigation course, stable. The ship's computer displays each status in soft, luminescent text. There's a kind of reassurance in seeing those numbers and green indicators, signs of life within the metal shell. Sometimes the ship's AI, a calm female voice, will read out a summary. All systems normal, she says in a gentle tone that you long ago customized to be soothing. Hearing a voice, even an artificial one, can be comforting. You've caught yourself occasionally thanking her out loud, or even chatting, knowing well it's just a programmed response matrix listening. Still, in these endless days, the formality of a captain and a ship's computer blurs into something more conversational. Thank you, you reply after the status report, as though talking to a companion. The AI does not respond to gratitude. It wasn't programmed for pleasantries. And yet in your heart you feel that the vessel itself is alive in some way, that it watches over you as a steadfast guardian. With the morning routine done, you have the expanse of the day ahead. Sometimes you set small tasks or goals to structure your time. Calibrate a sensor. Write a journal entry. Inspect the condition of the ship's exterior via camera feeds. Other times, you simply drift and think, letting curiosity guide you. The ship's library, a vast digital archive of human knowledge, literature, music, and art, is at your fingertips. You might spend an hour reading some ancient poetry from Earth, finding new resonance in those words now that you are so far away from the world that created them. Lines about solitude, about night and sky, take on deeper meanings. A phrase from an old poet, perhaps about the music of the spheres or the eternal night, suddenly feels very literal as you float in interstellar space, listening to the faint instruments of your ship. On other days, you delve into scientific logs or star charts, planning or simply imagining future stops on your journey. You review maps that chart the positions of nearby star systems as known centuries ago. By now, of course, those positions have shifted ever so slightly, the stars moving on their grand orbits around the galaxy's core. Your navigation system updates these shifts, showing where a star is expected to be by the time you reach it. If you've travelled for many years already, some stars have notably changed their coordinates, a reminder that even the stars are not fixed, that time flows and brings change everywhere. You think sometimes about how long it has been since you left known space, the space charted by humans, that is. How many years have you been travelling? The answer depends on the frame of reference. By your own clock, you measure time in perhaps decades, recalling the quiet celebrations you held for each Earth year that passed according to your calendar. But you also know that because of the immense speeds and perhaps long periods of cryogenic sleep you've undergone, the time outside, the years that have passed on Earth or under distant suns might be far, far more. It could well be centuries, maybe a millennium or more, since the day you departed your homeworld. If one counts the time dilation and the long, dream-filled hibernation transits you took between waypoints, it's a strange thought that the universe outside your ship has aged so much, that history has continued without you, and you have become a relic of the past, in some sense, a traveller out of time. And yet, within the bubble of this ship, you don't feel old or dated. To you, it's been a long journey, yes, but not an endless one. You've slept through the monotonous stretches and woken for the wonders, a strategy to keep your sanity and health on this odyssey. It means that sometimes when you wake from a long sleep cycle, you have to gather your memories, piece together who you are and where you're going, almost as if reborn. In those moments, memory and dream mingle. There were times you awoke and felt convinced you'd only dreamt your mission, that you were still back on Earth, lying in your childhood bed, listening to rain on the roof. But then, reality gently settled in as you orient yourself in the capsule, reminding you that those distant days are long gone. And here you truly are, among the stars. To cope with such disorientation, you established comforting routines, like this morning check and a journal you keep. In the digital log, you write as if speaking to a friend, perhaps to your future self or some hypothetical reader who might one day find these records. You describe your feelings the sights outside. Philosophical musings that come to you in the long dark. Today I saw a star winking at me on the horizon, you might write, half in whimsy. I named it Solitude and felt less alone. Writing these lines, you smile to yourself. You mention how time felt particularly fluid, how you had a dream that you were swimming through the night sky and awoke still feeling that gentle motion. You note that all systems are good, that your heart is calm, and that you spent the morning humming a tune from a half-remembered lullaby. These simple notes might never be read by another, but the act of writing them brings you comfort and a sense of purpose. It's as if you are telling the story of your journey as it happens, weaving a narrative so that it doesn't all blur into one endless day. After journaling, perhaps you take some time to simply observe again. You float to another viewport. There are several around the ship's small habitable module, each offering a slice of the panorama outside. One faces more toward the galactic plane. Another points out to the vast intergalactic darkness above the galaxy's disk. You peer out that upward window now, into a star field that is sparser than the one toward the galaxy's center. Here and there, you see not just stars, but faint, fuzzy shapes, galaxies far beyond our own, tiny island universes scattered in the immense ocean of space. They are so far that they appear as little smudges of light. One of them might be Andromeda, the great spiral neighbor that one day, billions of years hence, will collide with the Milky Way. Right now, it's just a tiny blur, a thing of thought more than sight. Another could be a dwarf galaxy, a satellite of our Milky Way, spilling its stars slowly into our galaxy's gravity well. Looking at these distant objects, you feel an even deeper sense of the enormity of the cosmos. It humbles and soothes you at the same time. There's no rush out here. The galaxies move on timescales of eons. Even stars live for billions of years. In the face of that, a journey of a few hundred or thousand years feels like a small adventure, a heartbeat in cosmic time. You allow that perspective to center you. You have time to explore, to think, to simply be. At some point in your day, you decide to check on the course ahead. The ship is still en route through a broad expanse between star clusters. There's a particular star system that is your next major stop, a beacon in your navigation. But it's many light years away still. Perhaps it's one that was chosen for a possible interesting planet, or just as a navigational checkpoint. For now, though, nothing immediate lies ahead on the map, except the vast sea of interstellar space. However, something draws your attention, a subtle reading on the long-range sensors, something the computer flagged quietly. It's not urgent or dangerous, just a point of interest that wasn't on the original chart. You pull up the sensor data and see that the ship has detected a regular pattern of radio pulses in the distance. It's extremely faint and not on any known communication frequency. The pattern is rhythmic, a pulse every few seconds, like a distant heartbeat echoing through space. Immediately, your mind wanders to the possibility of an intelligent signal, but you recognize the signature as something else. It is likely a pulsar, a rapidly spinning neutron star, broadcasting beams of energy as it rotates. The library confirms it. Such regular timing, say one pulse every 1.7 seconds, suggests a known pulsar or a newly discovered one. A sense of excitement wells up in you. Though pulsars are a known phenomenon, they are still rare finds on a voyage like this. These stellar remnants are like lighthouses in the cosmic ocean, and stumbling upon one that is near your trajectory feels like finding a secret, radiant pearl in the vast dark. You know from reading and training that a pulsar is the collapsed core of a massive star that went supernova ages ago, an object so dense that its atoms have been crushed into neutrons. It spins fast, and if its magnetic axis is aligned just so, it shoots out beams of electromagnetic radiation from its poles. When one of those beams sweeps across your line of sight, you detect a pulse. The idea of an object the size of a city spinning with the mass of a sun is mind-bending, and here you have evidence of one, sending out its cosmic beacon. This pulsar's signal is not very strong from here, implying it's still quite distant. Maybe it lies far off to one side of your planned route, or perhaps a bit ahead. You check the coordinates and realize it's somewhat off the straight path, nestled perhaps in or near that nebula you noted earlier on the map. Could it be that the nebula and the pulsar are related? Possibly. If the pulsar is the corpse of a star, the nebula might be the remains of the star's exploded outer layers, still glowing or drifting as an expanding cloud. If that's so, then you might be approaching a supernova remnant, a place of both death and creation, where heavy elements were forged in a stellar explosion and scattered across space. The thought of witnessing this excites your scientific curiosity and tugs at your heart. It feels almost like an invitation, a cosmic siren call from a dead star saying, "Come listen to my story." Such an opportunity might not come again soon. You carefully consider the detour, adjusting course to take you nearer the pulsar and nebula. It would add some extra time to your journey toward the next star system. But what is time to you now? You smile at the thought. You have more than enough time, and the journey itself is the point, not just the destination. You input a few commands and consult the navigation AI about the detour. The gentle voice responds, "Estimated additional time to destination, negligible relative to mission parameters." You chuckle at the dry way the AI frames it. In human terms, maybe it means months or a year longer before you reach that distant target. But in the scope of a voyage measured in centuries, it's indeed negligible. Decision made, you slowly initiate a course change. The ship's engines, which have been mostly silent, start to come alive with a low thrumming vibration. Because you are in deep cruise mode, the acceleration is gradual. You won't suddenly be thrown against a wall. Instead, over the next hours, the ship will alter its vector gently. You feel the faintest pressure as the ship corrects course, just a slight touch of weight returning as acceleration builds. It's almost comforting, like gravity trying to sneak back in for a moment, reminding you of the feel of a floor under your feet. You strap yourself into the chair by the console to monitor the process. Through the window, the starfield ever so slowly shifts as the vessel pivots. That bright bluish star you named earlier slides to one side, implying you're turning slightly away from its direction. In space navigation, such motions are usually imperceptible, but because you have fixed your gaze on the stars, you catch this drift. It's like watching the slow turning of a boat on a calm sea under the night sky, the constellations reorienting as you change course. The engine burn is low and steady, a gentle push. After a while, it ceases, leaving you coasting on the new heading. The pulsar's coordinates are now locked in as a waypoint. The AI notes in its log that you are now en route to an uncharted pulsar for observational purposes. There's a hint of formality there that makes you grin, as if you needed to justify it beyond the simple desire to witness the marvel. But indeed, you feel a responsibility to observe and record what you find for knowledge's sake, and for those who might in some future read your logs. With the course set, you unstrap and float free again, feeling a sense of anticipation. It will likely be some time before you reach the vicinity of the pulsar. Even at high speed, Space is enormous. You estimate perhaps a few days or weeks until the signal grows strong and the pulsar is near enough to capture good visuals, if any. In the meantime, you prepare instruments, calibrating the radio telescope on board, warming up cameras, ensuring data storage is ready. These tasks give you a renewed energy. They are a break from the usual monotony and a chance to focus your mind outward, towards discovery. During the cruise towards the pulsar, you occasionally tune in to the signal. You set the audio output to a range humans can hear, and suddenly the cabin is filled with a faint, rhythmic ticking or whooshing sound at the same interval as the pulses. It is the heartbeat of a dead star converted to sound, a slow, steady throb. You close your eyes as you listen to it. The sound is hypnotic, each beat arriving like the toll of a faraway bell, deep and resonant in its electronic translation. There's something music-like about it, though it's just a single note repeated. In between the louder pulses, you can hear a soft hiss of background radiation, the ongoing whisper of the galaxy itself. But then the next beat cuts through, punctual and reliable. It's oddly comforting, like the ticking of a gigantic clock or the metronome of the universe, counting out time on a scale beyond human. This star's heart still beats, you murmur to yourself, eyes still closed. In your mind's eye, you picture the pulsar as it might be, a tiny, dense sphere spinning in space, with cones of energy emanating from its magnetic poles. Every rotation, a beam sweeps past your ship's line of sight, and you catch that flash. Perhaps the pulsar rotates faster than the rhythm you hear. Maybe you're catching every second or third beam, depending on alignment. Some pulsars spin dozens of times per second, but their beams might only hit you intermittently. The one you're approaching seems slower, which is good. It means it's likely a bit older, having lost some speed since its formation. In that slower spin, there's a gentleness to its cosmic ticking. You take notes of these thoughts in your journal. On the way to the pulsar, you write, listening to its song. Feels like I'm hearing the voice of something beyond life and death, a remnant of a star that once shone bright, now condensed to a beacon. It's lonely and beautiful. You wonder about the star that came before the pulsar. Once, long ago, there was a massive sun there, maybe tens of times heavier than Sol. For millions of years, it could have been a radiant beacon, perhaps with planets orbiting it. Did those planets harbour life? Did any creatures look up at that star in their sky? If so, they would have witnessed an apocalypse when it died. A supernova blazing, outshining galaxies for a brief moment, and then fading to this quietly ticking cinder. If those hypothetical beings existed, maybe they were long gone before it happened, or maybe they were extinguished in the blast. Or perhaps, on some world orbiting at a safe distance, some life form saw the sky light up like never before, and then fade into an eerie darkness. Their sun turned into a weird, invisible thing, only detectable by these pulses. These thoughts make you shiver slightly, not in fear, but in awe at the raw power of the cosmos. You are listening to the end state of that tremendous event, but the story doesn't feel entirely sad. After all, the supernova would have scattered heavy elements into space, seeding the nebula you expect to find. That material could someday coalesce into new stars, new planets, perhaps new life. The death of one star might lead to the birth of many others. And the pulsar itself, though a relic, is like a storyteller left behind, repeating a tale in Morse code-like flashes for anyone who cares to listen. As you contemplate these cosmic cycles, your ship draws ever nearer to the source. The pulses grow stronger, easier to detect. The radio receiver no longer has to strain. You could probably detect the pulsar now without amplification through the static. You monitor visual feeds too, eagerly waiting for the first direct sighting of the nebula or any glow. Perhaps the pulsar emits in X-rays or visible light flickers. If you have a sensitive enough camera, you might catch a slight bluish blinking dot where it lies. For now, nothing distinct is visible to the naked eye yet. Just the same star field, with that knowledge that one of those stars ahead is not like the others, but a rapidly spinning beacon. The days or weeks pass in a kind of focused tranquility as you approach. You take care of yourself, as always. Eat, exercise, sleep. But now there's an undercurrent of anticipation. Your mind often drifts to what you will see and learn. The solitude feels less heavy when you have a goal, an upcoming experience to look forward to. You occasionally speak aloud to the ship, or even to the pulsar, as though sending it messages that you're coming. "I hear you," you whisper with a smile once, when the ticking seems particularly clear. "I'm on my way." It's a silly, poetic fancy. The star is not alive to listen. Yet out here, allowing yourself these flights of imagination feels natural and healthy. Finally, one evening, by your schedule, as you dim the cabin lights to simulate night, the ship's optical sensors pick up something on the forward cameras. A faint haze ahead, unstar-like in its diffusion. Your heart skips with excitement. This must be the nebula, the cloud of gas that's part of this pulsar's story. You float to the main viewport and press your face close, peering intently. At first you see nothing unusual, but if you cover your eyes and allow them to adjust, you begin to see it, a very faint patch of light against the starry background, like a smudge of grey-blue gauze. It's easy to miss because it's not emitting much visible light, likely only shining by the glow of embedded particles or maybe faint fluorescence from the pulsar's energy. But there it is, something definitely there, not just the emptiness of space. The pulsar is at the heart of that, you reckon, possibly still too far to discern distinctly, but you know every hour brings you closer. With excitement building, you decide to rest well, so that you're alert when you enter the heart of the nebula. You secure yourself in your sleeping bag, still listening to the pulsar's heartbeat through the audio feed. It's like a cosmic lullaby, steady and assuring. You imagine it's the universe itself breathing deeply and allow your own breaths to synchronize with it. In and out, in time with the distant pulses, you drift into a peaceful sleep, cradled by the sound of the dead star's slow, endless rhythm. You awaken gently to a soft chime and the very subtle rocking sensation of the ship adjusting its trajectory. Blinking awake, you still hear the faint pulse of the neutron star's emissions through the audio system. It's become the background rhythm of your dreams, and now you're waking. For a moment, you lie there in the quiet darkness of your cabin, simply listening. The pulse's beat is slower now than what you remember when you fell asleep. A quick check of the instrument readout explains why. You're much closer, so the signal is stronger, and the receiver doesn't need to time compress it as it did before. You've matched the frame of its rotation more directly, so you're hearing each true rotation, about 1 2/3 seconds per pulse, exactly as the data indicated. It's like a slow cosmic metronome, You find it soothing. Unzipping from your sleeping bag, you push towards the nearest window. The sight that greets you steals what breath remains from sleep out of your lungs in pure awe. Filling a portion of the black sky is the nebulous cloud you glimpsed earlier, now much larger and detailed. It's no longer just a faint smudge. It has form and texture. The nebula drapes itself across the stars like a veil of smoke, backlit by embers. You see tendrils and filaments of faintly glowing gas, shimmering in hues of soft blue, violet, and a ghostly green. These colours are subtle, not the bright, gaudy clouds one might see in a long-exposure photograph, but visible enough that your eyes catch them like a delicate aurora spread out in space. Amidst the cloud, there are denser knots where the light concentrates, possibly reflections off clumps of dust or energized regions near the pulsar. And there, near the center, a star shines with a peculiar flicker. It's not obvious at first glance, but as you watch, you notice a tiny blink in that core region, a flash of pale blue-white light that comes and goes regularly. That must be it, the pulsar itself. To the naked eye, it might be barely noticeable among the other stars, if not for that rhythmic appearance and disappearance. It's like seeing a firefly at a great distance in the dark, pulsing on and off. You feel a thrill recognizing this subtle signal for what it is. You find yourself smiling broadly. "Hello there," you whisper, as if greeting the star personally. In the privacy of your thoughts, you feel as though the pulsar has been greeting you this whole time with its beacon. And now at last you can greet it back with human eyes upon it. You quickly don a pair of light-enhancing goggles that amplify low light, and the view of the nebula intensifies. The wisps of gas become more luminous, a faint rose and teal glow emerging in places. Jagged filaments, likely shock fronts from the ancient supernova, trace arcs and loops through the cloud. It is a beautiful chaos, frozen in time from an explosion long ago, yet still slowly expanding outward. Tiny specks of solid debris, maybe grains of dust, or larger fragments of the shattered star, glint here and there, reflecting the pulsar's light like distant sparks. Your ship has already begun running its scientific protocols, capturing high-resolution images, spectra of the gas, and magnetic field readings. Data scrolls on a side panel. You glance at it. The nebula's composition shows spikes of elements: oxygen, iron, silicon, calcium, all the products of a supernova. These are the very elements that once formed the star's body and were forged in its final moments. Seeing those readouts stirs something in you. Oxygen and calcium, you recall, are also in your own body, in your lungs and bones. The iron that is giving some rusty red hints in the gas, that too is in your blood. You truly are made of the remnants of ancient stars like this. It's one thing to know it in theory, and quite another to be here, looking at the drifting graveyard of a star, and realizing part of you is kin to this matter. You continue to gaze, rapt, letting the scientific mind and the poetic heart both take their fill. To one side of the expanding cloud, you notice a darker patch, a silhouette against the more luminous parts. It could be a denser clump of dust blocking the background starlight, a newborn feature in the aftermath of destruction. Perhaps in that clump, over many thousands of years, gravity will gather the dust and gas again to form new stars. It might be the seed of a new solar system. In that sense, this place is not just an end, but a beginning in slow progress. A supernova's debris often eventually becomes the raw material for the next generation of celestial bodies. Your ship drifts slowly into the periphery of the nebula. You made sure to approach cautiously, giving the strong radiation and any high-energy particles a wide berth. Even so, you are now enveloped in a thin haze of the nebula's outskirts. The cabin lights are dimmed to let you see outside, but occasionally you see a tiny flash outside the window as a fast-moving particle strikes the hull and creates a spark of Cherenkov radiation or ionization. The shields handle most of the dangerous particles, converting their energy into harmless light. It's like being in the middle of a very sparse, ethereal fireworks show where single atoms flare briefly upon hitting your protective bubble. It reminds you of being inside a cloud during a mild storm, where you sometimes see flickers of lightning far off, except here, each flicker is the death of an atom hitting your ship at relativistic speed. The pulsar's pulses are now so frequent and strong that you don't need the audio feed to know its rhythm. You can actually see a subtle change in the lighting of the nebula with each pulse. It's as if someone were gently turning up a cosmic lantern and then dimming it, over and over. The effect is faint, but you notice nearby wisps glinting in time. Perhaps the pulsar is emitting in X-rays or other wavelengths, causing certain gases to fluoresce momentarily. You marvel at it. You're witnessing a cosmic phenomenon, usually studied from afar, now right in front of you. It feels almost intimate. For a moment you feel the scientific urge to quantify everything, measure the pulsar's exact spin rate, map the nebula's dimensions, etc. And indeed, your instruments are doing that. But you also remember to just be present and experience this. You unstrap and float again to the largest window, pressing your face close, and surrender to the sheer wonder. The universe is putting on a slow, silent light show, just for whoever has the eyes to see. And right now, that's you. Your hand rests on the glass, and you whisper, "So this is your song." Light and sound together. The pulsar keeps shining and fading, indifferent to your presence, but in your mind perhaps acknowledging your greeting with each flicker. You stay like that for a long time, watching history frozen in front of you, the ghost of a star and the cradle of future stars intertwined. After a while, an idea occurs to you, a quietly daring one. You could step outside just for a short while. The ship's sensors and cameras have their view, but what about feeling this space directly? You know the risks. The radiation here is higher than normal background, but your suit can handle a moderate exposure for a brief time. The area is calm enough. There's no significant debris that could threaten, especially if you tether close to the ship. There's something in you that yearns to float directly in the midst of this stardust, to truly become a part of the scene rather than an observer behind glass. Decision made, you prepare for an EVA, extravehicular activity, essentially a spacewalk. Not out of necessity, but out of desire and reverence. You carefully don your suit, ensuring the protective layers are intact. The suit's material is designed to ward off radiation and micrometeoroids, and it has its own life support for several hours. You go through the checklist: oxygen flow, suit pressure, comms link, even if just to the ship's recorder, since no one else is out here to communicate with. Tether secure. As you put on the helmet, the last sound you hear directly is your breathing and heartbeat. Then the helmet seals, and those sounds become louder in your ears, joined by the faint whir of the suit's ventilators. The heads-up display lights up, showing suit status. All green. You move to the airlock, a small chamber that leads out of the ship. It's a familiar process, one you've done at times to conduct repairs or inspections on the hull, but never in a context quite like this. The inner door closes behind you, and for a moment you stand, or rather float, in the tiny chamber, lit by a red readiness light. You attach the tether to your suit's belt, a coiled lifeline connecting you to the spacecraft. With a deep breath, the sound loud in your helmet, you initiate the airlock cycle. There's a hiss as air is pumped back into storage tanks and the pressure drops. Your ears adjust, suit pressure holding steady. A small light turns green, outer door ready to open. The outer hatch slides aside, revealing space directly, a doorway to the cosmos. You pull yourself through, emerging from the cocoon of the ship into open space. Immediately, the vista expands around you. Without the frame of a window, the nebula seems even larger, more encompassing. Stars shine all around, unobstructed by any glare or reflection. The pulsar's faint blink washes softly over your suit, and you actually catch the dim flash with your naked eyes through the visor. You secure one hand on a handhold on the exterior hull and push gently to drift a short distance away. The tether unreels smoothly behind you. Now you are truly floating in the nebula, nothing but your suit separating you from the vacuum. There is no sound at all, except your body's sounds. The silence is profound. You had turned off the audio feed of the pulsar to fully embrace the quiet. In space, of course, there is no sound transmission to your ears anyway. That pulsar's song is solely electromagnetic. So out here, you experience the cosmos in its native silence, broken only by your breathing. Each breath in sounds like a soft rush in your helmet, each breath out a calm sigh. Slowly, you turn yourself around, tether gently tugging, until you face the ship. It looks lonely and small against the backdrop of the nebula. Its lights are mostly off for stealth and observation, so it appears as a dark silhouette with only a few beacon lights blinking on its hull. For a moment, you imagine what it would be like if the tether snapped and the ship drifted away beyond reach. Oddly, the thought doesn't panic you much, a testament to your training and also to a sort of acceptance of being one with the environment. You know the tether is secure, but in this moment of reflection you think, if this were my end, to become a speck in this cloud, would it be so terrible? It's a strangely peaceful thought, though just a fleeting hypothetical. You tighten your grip on the tether line instinctively. No, you will return. Your journey continues. Now you spin slowly back toward facing the nebula and pulsar. Without the ship's structure around you, it's truly like being inside a dream. The colours are all around, a faint mist of light. The stars beyond glow patiently. The pulsar flickers ahead, and you raise your hand as if to wave at it or feel its light. Of course, you feel nothing from it directly. The energy doesn't manifest as touch, but the gesture is a kind of communion. Hovering there, you extend your arms out as if embracing the nebula. Particle by particle, its material drifts around you, ancient atoms that once were part of a star's core. Some of those atoms, perhaps forged in that star's final fury, now gently collide with your suit, maybe sticking to the fabric. In that way, you literally collect a bit of the stardust on yourself. You are like a traveller who has wandered into an ancient ruin and gotten dust on your boots. Except this ruin is cosmic, and the dust glitters and glows in the starlight. You close your eyes for a minute. You let yourself just feel the weightlessness, the subtle tug of the tether, the knowledge of the nebula around you. You feel as if you're floating in a vast, ethereal ocean. And indeed, in a way you are. An ocean of sparse gas and cosmic history. You are a solitary diver in a sea that few will ever see firsthand. A profound sense of gratitude fills you. Gratitude to have this experience, to witness this grandeur and to be part of it. You feel grateful to the long-gone star for its gift of elements and beauty, and even grateful to your ship for carrying you here safely. Opening your eyes, you see something small drift by your visor. A tiny sparkling particle caught in a ray of starlight, just inches from you. It looks for all the world like a tiny snowflake or a grain of sand, except it shines as if made of gemstone for that brief second before it floats out of the light. You reach out slowly, but it's already gone, lost in the immensity. Still, you smile, for you have seen it. Knowing you shouldn't expose yourself too long out here, you reluctantly begin to move back toward the airlock, but you do so slowly, savouring every last moment, hand over hand on the tether, gliding gently. You pull yourself home. Before re-entering, you take one last panoramic look at the scene, trying to imprint it in your memory forever. The pulsar blinks. The nebula shimmers. You whisper a goodbye, thanking the silent star for its light, and then you turn back into the airlock and seal it behind you. Inside the airlock, you repressurize and remove your helmet, taking the first breath of the ship's air. It carries a faint metallic smell and the scent of your own recycled atmosphere. A familiar, homely smell now. After the crisp emptiness of the vacuum, the ship's air feels thick and warm in your lungs. You never thought you would associate the term homely with recycled air. But after the sublime and thin void outside, the interior of the ship is like a snug den. You peel off the suit once the pressure normalizes, stow it carefully, and return to the console to gather all the data recorded. There's hours of analysis you could do, but you decide to save much of it for later. Instead, you queue up some of the best photographs the ship took, enhanced images of the nebula, and display them on the large screen. They are breathtaking. Twisting clouds of coloured gas, studded with shining fragments. The pulsar at the centre is overexposed in one, a bright point with diffraction spikes radiating from it due to the sensor. In another image taken with filters, you see the intricate filaments clearly, a structure in the chaos. You save these images with care, labelling them with the name of the pulsar, which for now is just a catalogue number, but also adding your own personal name for this place, perhaps the Dreaming Star, or the Lullaby Nebula, in honour of how it sang you to sleep and greeted you in the morning. You speak the name softly as you type it, committing it to the record. At last, it's time to take your leave. You've spent longer here than you planned, though still in the grand scheme. It's a brief visit to a monument that has stood for tens of thousands of years. You program the ship to resume its journey, plotting a course out of the nebula and back toward the broad path to your next stellar destination. The engines thrum to life again, and you feel a faint sense of motion. As the ship accelerates slowly, the view outside begins to change. The nebula that was all around you starts to recede its filaments and veils growing fainter as the distance increases. You stay by the window, watching as the pulsar's blinking grows dimmer with each passing hour. You keep your eyes on it until it becomes just one star among many again. Then a faint speck, and finally it vanishes into the tapestry of the Milky Way behind you. Yet its rhythm echoes in your memory, and you know, scientifically, that its radio pulses are still detectable for a while, until you go too far. You leave the receiver on in the background as a gentle reminder, until eventually the pulses get weaker and merge back into the natural static of space. Now the space around you is once more the open, seemingly empty gulf. The stars ahead are a bit denser as you are approaching one of the spiral arms or a cluster region, but nothing as dramatic as the nebula fills your view now. Still, you carry a part of that place with you, not in any physical way, aside from maybe a few stray atoms clinging to the hull, which in time will drift off, but in your soul. You feel enriched by it. The cosmos has shared one of its stories, and you were there to listen and bear witness. As you guide the ship onward, you reflect on what you've just seen. This voyage is not just a journey through space, but through time, and through the life cycles of creation and destruction. You have witnessed the aftermath of a death of a star. In that destruction, you found great beauty and the promise of rebirth. It's a comforting thought that even in the cold vastness, nothing truly ends permanently. It transforms. It gives rise to new wonders. Perhaps, you muse, the same is true of everything, of people, of memories, of civilizations. Endings feed new beginnings in the universe's grand design. Your heart feels full and calm. Once more, silence envelops you, but it's not an empty silence. It's filled with the quiet knowledge of what you've experienced. After the intensity of the pulsar encounter, the gentle emptiness of normal interstellar space is like a soft lull in a song. You allow yourself to relax deeply again, floating in the cabin as the ship glides forward on its long path. The stars outside are steady and patient, and somewhere far behind, a tiny pulsar keeps time in the dark, a heartbeat in the darkness that you will always remember. The vast solitude of the journey after leaving the pulsar grants you time to turn inward again, with the adrenaline and wonder of the pulsar encounter now settling into memory. A quiet melancholy gently seeps in, not an unhappy feeling exactly, but a contemplative, longing note that surfaces when you think of home. Home. The concept feels both distant and strangely immediate. Distant, because home was once Earth, a tiny blue jewel now impossibly far behind you in both space and time. Immediate, because in the silence of your ship, your memories can bring Earth to you in vivid detail, bridging the light years in an instant. As the ship coasts on, you find yourself drawn to an old photograph stored in your personal effects. It's a digital image you have looked at many times on this journey. With a few taps on the console, you project it as a hologram in the air. It is a picture of Earth as seen from space, perhaps taken by an early lunar mission or a satellite long ago. In it, Earth is half illuminated by the sun, a brilliant crescent of blue and white clouds against the black void. You float in front of that image, taking it in. That was once your whole world, literally and figuratively. Every experience, every person you knew, everything that built you, came from that shining sphere. And now, you, a tiny speck that originated there, have travelled so far away that Earth is just a memory and a faint point of star-like light lost somewhere in the Milky Way's haze. You try to imagine what Earth might be like now, in the epoch that has passed while you journeyed. When you left, it was the era you knew, the culture and people you knew. If indeed decades or centuries have elapsed back there, how much might have changed? Perhaps the people of Earth have advanced, solved some of the problems that weighed on your mind when you departed. Perhaps they have new technologies, maybe even faster ships trailing behind you in later years, though none have caught up so far. Possibly they have faced hardships too. You have no way of knowing. You sent messages as long as you could, but at some point the distance grew too vast and the communications ceased to be practical. The last message you received from Earth was so faint and delayed. By the time it reached you, the senders would already have been generations in the past. It was a goodbye, a farewell from those who realized they would never see you again. You recall that message clearly. A compilation of voices from friends, scientists, maybe even leaders, wishing you well, telling you that humanity would not forget this bold journey. You remember listening to it in the dark, tears floating from your eyes in little shimmering orbs, because in 0G tears don't fall. You had collected them with a cloth, one by one, each tiny sphere of sadness and joy mixed together. Now, thinking of that moment, you feel a tightness in your chest, not an acute grief, but a deep, resonant ache of nostalgia. Everyone in that recording is likely long gone, their lives lived out under the sun you once shared. The society that sent you has become history, perhaps even legend. You wonder if somewhere in a museum or a database, your name is recorded as the one who left for the stars, and whether anyone still marks the day you left, or ponders where you are now. Sometimes you consider that you might truly be the last living human from your time, a traveller who has skipped ahead like a stone cast out across the cosmic pond. The thought could be unbearably lonely, but you have made peace with it over the years. After all, life is ever changing. Even had you stayed on Earth, time would have separated you eventually from those you loved, through the normal course of life and death. Out here, that separation happened more swiftly and absolutely. Yet in essence, it's the same truth all must face. That moments and people are transient, and we carry them only in memory. And what vivid memories you carry. At times, they are as sharp as crystal. You close your eyes and summon one now. The sound of rain on your window on an Earth night. The air heavy with the scent of petrichor from dry ground drinking in the moisture. You can almost feel the cool breeze and the comfort of being safe inside while the storm raged outside. There are no rains in space, no weather at all inside your controlled environment. But once in a while, when micrometeoroids pitter-patter on the hull, you imagine it is rain. You allow yourself to sink into that illusion, picturing yourself back in your childhood home, maybe under a warm blanket, listening half asleep to the patter of droplets. The memory is so soothing that for a moment you truly feel you're there. You might even drift into a light doze, and in that doze, dream of walking outside on a wet street under glowing street lamps, or standing in a field as a warm summer rain falls from thunderclouds. How beautiful it was, you think in the dream, not realizing you're dreaming, to feel water from the sky on your skin. Then a gentle beeping from the ship will rouse you, and you awaken, the dream dissolving like mist. You are back in your capsule, floating, dry, warm, and the only droplets are those of your tears. If the dream made you cry softly in your sleep, you wipe your eyes and smile a little, grateful that you can still remember. Memory and reality often weave together out here. There are moments you have opened your eyes from sleep, utterly convinced that you were still on Earth, and that all of this, the ship, the journey, the stars, was the dream. In those first disorienting seconds, you looked around expecting familiar walls, perhaps a loved one beside you. Instead, you saw control panels and starlight through a viewport. The realization would come gently. No, it was the other way around. Earth is the dream now, a dream that you carry with you, but cannot return to in waking life. You've learned to cherish those moments when Earth visits you in your sleep. They're gifts from your subconscious, perhaps, to keep you company. Rather than feeling bitter when you wake up, you treat it like you had a brief vacation back to your old life, like stepping through a magic door and then coming back. You record some of these dreams in your journal, describing the color of the sky, the faces you saw. Some faces are of people you knew. Others are amalgams of memory and imagination. Occasionally, you dream of people who never existed, friends or companions created by your mind to populate the emptiness. In a long dream once, you had an entire conversation with someone you seemed to know well in the dream, laughing and talking by a fireplace in a house that felt like home, though you've never seen it before. When you woke, you almost expected to see that person aboard the ship. And when you realized no one was there, a deep loneliness settled on you. That day, you wrote in the log, "Dream friends are still friends. Thank you, whoever you were, for the company." Writing it made you smile, turning the sadness into gratitude. At other times, when dreams do not come, you consciously conjure the presence of those you miss. Perhaps as you sip another cup of tea in the observation lounge, you imagine an old friend sitting across from you, their features clear in your mind's eye. You tell them aloud about the pulsar you just visited, describing its beauty and how you felt. In your mind, you hear them respond, maybe asking a question or making a gentle joke. You chuckle, answering in kind. To an outside observer, if one existed, it would look as though you were talking to empty air. But to you, in that moment, it feels like a genuine small reunion. Your voice and imagination create a bubble of reality that, while fragile, comforts you. Eventually, the realization that they are not really there grows stronger, and the conversation trails off. You sigh and allow the vision to fade. Emptiness reasserts itself in the cabin, but it feels a little less cold than before. You think of the countless storytellers and dreamers back on Earth who imagined journeys like yours. How many tales, myths and fables were spun about travelling among the stars long before it was ever possible. It strikes you that in some way, you're living out a dream humanity has had for millennia. The loneliness you feel might have been felt in microcosm by the early explorers of Earth's oceans, or the first humans who left their home valleys and ventured over distant mountains, not knowing what they'd find. You recall lines from an old poem by a writer who mused about space. You can't remember the exact words, but the sentiment was about bearing the solitude for the sake of discovery, and how the stars are both lovers and strangers to those who seek them. To combat the heavy silence, you sometimes recite poetry or quote lines from memory. One favourite that comes to you now is from a very ancient text, the Odyssey by Homer, where the hero looks at the vast sea and the night sky above, feeling far from home, You recite softly, and the stars overhead, and the sea, the dark sea beneath. The exact wording escapes you, but you capture the essence. It comforts you that even in antiquity, long before anyone truly sailed the cosmic ocean, humans intuitively understood the mix of wonder and longing that comes with exploration. Leaning back in your chair, you let the hologram of Earth slowly fade out. Stars fill the space once more. You imagine, far, far behind one of those tiny pricks of light, Earth still orbits the sun. Perhaps it's still vibrant with life. Perhaps night has fallen on the side facing you now, and people in some future city or village stand outside, look up, and marvel at the stars, as people always have. They wouldn't know to look for your ship. It's far too faint and distant. But maybe in their hearts, some of them share the same yearning for adventure. Maybe a child looking at the Milky Way wonders what it's like to be out here, not knowing that one of their own kind is indeed drifting in that very moment between those very stars. The thought gives you a sense of connection. You are an extension of humanity, a single point of consciousness out in the great dark, carrying the human story forward in your own small way. You reflect on why you undertook this journey. At times you ask yourself, was it worth leaving everything behind? Different answers come at different times. On some days, when loneliness weighs heavily, you might question your choices. But on days like today, after witnessing the sublime beauty of a pulsar's nebula, you feel in your bones that it was worth it, that some things are bigger than oneself, and to be a witness to them, to bring back knowledge, if only in logs, or perhaps in your final return if that ever happens, is a noble purpose. Not to mention, there is personal fulfillment too. You always felt a calling, a restlessness under the skies of Earth, a voice that whispered of distant mountains to climb and oceans to cross. Only in your case, the mountains were stars, and the ocean was the vacuum between them. Not everyone hears that call, but you did, and you answered. In doing so, you gave up the comforts of home, yes, but you gained the entire universe as your realm of exploration. Still, you know it's healthy to acknowledge the sorrow of what was lost or left behind. You don't shy from it. In the quiet of your cabin, you allow yourself to mourn the life not lived, the family you might have had, the friends you would have grown old with, the simple pleasures of earthbound existence, feeling soil under bare feet, the wind in your hair on a grassy hill, the hug of another person. Those experiences are irreplaceable, and by choosing this path, you traded them for others. There is grief in that trade, and you carry it with you, but not as a bitter burden. Rather, as a reminder of the value of those things. It is your hope that someday humanity will venture out far enough in ways that do not force such absolute sacrifices, maybe in colonies, together, so that community persists. Perhaps your journey will help pave the way for that, mapping the routes, proving it can be done. You sigh and let the heavy thoughts disperse. Enough for now, you think. The present calls you back gently, the soft beeping of a timer indicating it's time to tend to your plants. Yes, you have a few small plants aboard, a tiny hydroponic garden for fresh air and a bit of green. Tending these living things has been a therapy for you. They are modest, a couple of hardy flowers and a dwarf tomato vine that surprisingly managed to bear a few tiny red tomatoes in the artificial light last year. You remember the absolute triumph and delight you felt biting into that first small fruit, a burst of real, fresh flavour that instantly evoked memories of earth gardens. Those plants are your crewmates in a sense, silently growing, needing your care, responding to your voice perhaps. For you often talk to them too, as one does to houseplants. You float over to the garden module now. The plants are gently swaying in their nutrient gel under a lamp. You inspect their leaves, noting the droplets of water clinging. In 0G, they don't drip. With a careful hand, you use a syringe to add a bit of water to the roots of each. The leaves of one plant have a few browning edges. You trim them and hope it will sprout new ones. "You're doing well," you murmur to them. "Keep me company a while longer, won't you?" In return, they offer a subtle fragrance. One is a type of mint, and if you brush its leaves, a faint refreshing scent fills the air. You inhale it and close your eyes, picturing a garden from your childhood, dew on mint leaves on a bright morning. These small rituals anchor you. They remind you that life, however small, persists even in the void, under the right conditions. And if a plant can thrive in a spaceship, perhaps humanity can thrive among the stars too, carrying their gardens and memories with them. After tending the plants, you journal a bit more, describing the nebula in lyrical terms now that you have had time to process, and noting your musings about Earth and homesickness. You find that once these thoughts are written out, they live on the page and weigh a little less in your heart. You conclude the entry with a hopeful note to yourself, a reminder that the journey continues and that every day brings the possibility of something new. You might even address yourself in the second person, as if writing to a friend. You are not alone out here completely. You have the stars, the echoes of those before, and your own inner strength. Keep going. The universe is awaiting you with all its wonders. Reading that back, you feel a gentle encouragement, as if those words indeed came from an outside friend. Finally, you decide to send out a message, even if no one is there to hear it in real time. You have done this before, recording your voice and beaming it into space, like a letter in a bottle cast into the cosmic sea. Perhaps someday it will reach someone, perhaps not. That isn't the point. It's the act of speaking and releasing the words that matters. You activate the comm system and with a clear, soft voice say, "Hello from the starship Dreamscape." You call it that in your messages, a poetic moniker you've given your vessel. "I am well. I have seen incredible things and felt many emotions. If anyone ever hears this, know that at this moment, I was out here, thinking of home and of all of you. To my far future listeners, I send my love and hope that you are thriving. To the cosmos itself, I send my gratitude for its beauty. Until next time." You pause, then add with a touch of whimsy, "This is a wanderer among the stars, signing off for now." With a press of a button, the message is encoded into a narrow beam and transmitted toward where Earth was last known to be. It will likely disperse and be noise by the time it reaches those distant light years. But who can say? The gesture itself warms you. Having shared your heart with the void, you feel a release. The melancholy in your chest lightens, making room again for quiet optimism. You look out of the viewport one more time. The endless night seems a little friendlier, as if the stars understood and offered a sympathetic twinkle. You take a deep breath and let it out slowly. Yes, you are alone, but also you are connected to everything that brought you here and everything you've yet to encounter. In that thought, you find peace. The ship continues its voyage, carrying you ever onward. Somewhere ahead, new sights and experiences await, and somewhere behind, the ghost of Earth and the echoes of bygone voices gently fade into the cosmic background. Both forward and backward, the universe is vast and full of mysteries. Cradling those memories and hopes inside you, you turn your attention to the forward viewport, ready once more to face the unknown with a calm and open heart. It is some time after leaving the pulsar when your ship's sensors alert you to another unusual discovery. This time, it's not a natural phenomenon, but something distinctly artificial. A complex pattern of infrared emissions and faint radio signals appears ahead in an otherwise unremarkable star system that lies along your path. Your attention sharpens at once. Out here, far from known human space, any artificial signal implies the handiwork of unknown intelligence. Your heart flutters with both excitement and a touch of cautious apprehension. Could it be that you are not the only traveller in this cosmic solitude? Or perhaps you have stumbled upon the remnants of someone who came long before? You adjust course slightly to investigate, directing the ship toward the source of the signals. As you draw nearer, details emerge. The signals are not communications, but rather the kind of diffuse emissions you'd expect from powered systems left running or decaying atomic batteries. They lack any clear modulation of a message, more like the steady hum of machinery or the leaking energy of old technology. Visions of derelict spacecraft or stations come to mind. You bring the ship into a slower approach, all sensors focused. Before long, the visual feed reveals shapes silhouetted against the starlight. In orbit around a dull reddish star, you see glints of metal and geometry where none should naturally be. There are structures there, large, dark shapes circling the star at various distances. The star itself is a small, tired sun, perhaps a red dwarf or an aging red giant, cooled and shrunken, casting a feeble, rust-coloured glow. Against that dim light, you catch sight of a ring-like object encircling the star. A broken ring, it seems, incomplete and jagged. Farther out, something that looks like a cluster of large satellites or habitats, drifting without apparent order. Your breath catches. This is it. Evidence of an ancient civilization, perhaps. The scale of the ring suggests a megastructure, maybe once a full band or Dyson-like construct harvesting stellar energy. If so, it is now long shattered. Only fragments remain, orbiting like the ghost of a necklace around the star. The outer objects could be space stations, or the husks of enormous spacecraft, or possibly artificial moons. Whatever they are dark, cold, and silent, save for those faint energy readings, likely residual power or slow radioactive decay. Cautiously, you pilot your ship closer to one of the larger drifting hulks on the outskirts of the system. It appears to be a massive station or ship, kilometers across, its shape vaguely cylindrical, but with many protrusions and spires. One part of it is torn open, as if by an explosion or collision. You keep a respectful distance as your floodlights play over its surface. The metal hull is pitted and scorched. You see what look like huge, eerie gashes where perhaps weapons fire or asteroid strikes have rent the structure. This place has known violence or catastrophe. You feel a shiver, not of fear exactly, but of solemn awe. You are witnessing the ruins of a once great construction, now drifting through endless night. Who built this? What were they like? What fate befell them? Questions swirl in your mind. This silent behemoth holds stories, if only it could speak. After careful scans show no immediate dangers, no active defenses, no hazardous radiation beyond normal background, you decide to venture inside the derelict, if possible. Your ship's smaller docking shuttle or your EVA suit might allow entry through one of the breaches. This is a rare opportunity for direct exploration. The idea of stepping foot, or at least a suited foot, into the hallways of an alien creation draws you irresistibly, tempered by caution. You find a section on the station's hull where a large crack opens into darkness within. Gently, you bring your shuttle alongside it and use maneuvering thrusters to stabilize. The shuttle's lights reveal an interior chamber just beyond the hull breach, large enough to enter. Suiting up again, you tether yourself to the shuttle and float through the jagged opening. Your helmet light cuts through motes of dust drifting in the zero gravity. Inside the station, the darkness is profound. This place has not seen light in untold years. As you shine your beam around, shapes begin to resolve. You find yourself in a broad corridor or concourse. The walls are high and curved, lined with what appear to be panels and long-dead light fixtures. The architecture is alien, but there is a strange familiarity to the layout. It seems this was a walkway or transport hall of some kind. Perhaps many beings once moved through here. You move carefully, mindful not to stir up too much dust or debris. Every little action sends particles floating. Occasionally, a tiny piece of wreckage bumps your suit with a soft tick. Your breathing sounds loud in your helmet, your heartbeat quick with adrenaline, yet your movements remain measured and respectful, as if walking through a sacred temple. Further in, your light catches something on the wall, markings or art. You drift closer and realize it's a mural, or perhaps signage. It's faded and scratched, but you can make out figures and symbols. Stylized shapes of creatures appear, perhaps the builders of this place. They are not human. One figure is tall and spindly with elongated limbs and a slender torso, maybe twice the height of a human. It stands beside another of similar form. They might have 4 arms, or maybe what you see is motion depicted. Their heads are odd, perhaps crested or haloed by something. It's hard to tell if those are representations of their true appearance, or something symbolic. Surrounding the figures are stars and shapes that could be planets or structures. One figure holds a circle, possibly representing the ring structure around the star, as if presenting it. Another figure reaches toward a spiral that could symbolize the galaxy. There is an artistic flair to it. Swirls of color, now dulled, and geometric patterns accent the scene. Even without understanding, you sense it tells a story, perhaps of how this species harnessed their star. The ring might have been a colossal energy collector, or an allegory of reaching for the galaxy. You float along the wall, taking it in with silent reverence. There are also sequences of symbols, maybe their written language, arranged in columns. It's indecipherable to you, but you record images of it. The script is composed of flowing lines and dots. It's almost musical in form, like notation of a song. For a moment, you imagine that perhaps their language was as much sung as written, each symbol a chord or tone. Moving onward, you find an open chamber that branches off the corridor. Inside, the beam illuminates rows of strange devices, perhaps chairs or pods. Many are broken, but a few remain intact. Approaching one, you see a skeletal frame within it, but not a skeleton like any earth creature. It's disintegrated heavily, almost just a silhouette of dust and faintly gleaming material. It has a rib-like structure, but the proportions are bizarre. A narrow, elongated chest, extra sets of limb-like extensions. Most of it has crumbled. Perhaps only metal implants or supports remain in part. You realize with a solemn hush that these might be the remains of one of the station's inhabitants, still strapped or seated at their post. Maybe they were in these pods during whatever disaster occurred. Gently, you bow your head, feeling as if intruding on a tomb. "I'm sorry," you whisper, almost inaudibly into your helmet, voice not carrying beyond your suit. You carefully refrain from touching any of the remains. They look as if a mere breath could scatter them to dust. What happened here? A sudden calamity, maybe decompression, or a weapon that killed the crew in an instant, leaving their bodies to slowly decay for eons in the vacuum. Your exploration continues carefully through a few more sections. You find what looks like a central hall, perhaps an assembly or control room. A grand window, or what was once a window, spans one side, now cracked and mostly opaque with residue. Through it, the faint light of the red star filters in, casting a dim red glow in addition to your lamp. The heart of the station is visible here. Consoles and interfaces of alien design, arrayed in a circle facing the window. Everything is long inert. You drift to one console and see a display screen, dark and dusty. Out of curiosity, you gently wipe a gloved hand across it, brushing away the layers of cosmic dust. To your astonishment, beneath the grime, faint symbols glow for a moment. Some built-in luminescent material reacting possibly to the heat of your hand or the motion. Startled, you pull back, but then realize it's just a remnant of some energy store in the device. The symbols flicker weakly and then fade. Perhaps some battery still held a trickle of charge, even after all this time, now expended in that brief flicker. It's like seeing a ghost of the machine. You feel a pang of emotion, as if the station itself tried to awaken for a moment to greet a visitor, but lacked the strength to speak. Aware that time is passing and your suit resources are finite, you decide to leave a mark of respect before departing. From a pouch, you pull a small object you had with you, a commemorative pin emblazoned with a star emblem, something from Earth's space agency given to you when you left, a token of your own civilization. You find a flat spot on a console and gently secure the pin there with a magnetic clasp. It's a quiet gesture, a way of saying, "We came, we remember you." A tribute from one star-faring people to another, across ages and light years. Floating back through the corridors, you pause once more at the mural. In the beam of your helmet light, the alien figures seem almost alive. You reach out and place your gloved hand lightly on the wall, next to the depiction of the tall being with the circle. Dust lifts and swirls in the water of your eyes as you blink away a tear. "I wish I could know your story," you whisper. "I will remember this much of it." With that, you carefully navigate back to the breach where your shuttle waits. One more glance over your shoulder at the silent hallway, and you slip out into open space, leaving the station to its slumber once more. Back aboard your shuttle and then your main ship, you remove your helmet, exhaling a long breath you didn't realize you were holding. The air inside smells of old metal and a hint of ancient dust that clings to your suit, the scent of antiquity and emptiness. You feel an overwhelming mix of sorrow and wonder. Sorrow for the likely demise of an entire civilization. Wonder at the fact that it existed at all and built marvels in the sky. You make detailed notes of everything, describing the structures, the mural, the remains. In your logs, you label this find with a name that comes to mind. Perhaps Epitaph Station or the Silent Ring, something poetic to honor it. For all you know, you are the first living consciousness to witness it since whatever befell it. You feel a responsibility now, to remember on behalf of those who are gone, to carry a fragment of their legacy forward. As the ship gently undocks from the derelict and drifts away, you look back at the star and its shattered ring. It looks for all the world like a gravestone in cosmic form, a star with a broken halo. You imagine once that ring gleamed bright, encircling the sun with energy and life, powering colonies or forging wonders. Now it's just debris. The planets in the system, if any, appear barren and scarred when you scan them. Perhaps they suffered whatever catastrophe occurred as well. You wonder about the fate of that species. Did any survive? Did they evacuate, leaving behind only these ruins? Are there descendants out there somewhere, among the stars? Or did they perish completely? The galaxy is old, and such rise and fall may have happened countless times in its history. It dawns on you that the quiet emptiness of space might be deceptive. It's not empty of stories. It's filled with the shadows of events like this. Only they are spread out over such vast distances and times that one could wander a lifetime and only stumble upon a hint or two. You resume a safe distance orbit around the star, taking one last panoramic scan of the system. Perhaps you'll include a note in your message cache to humanity about this place, in case one day far in the future someone follows and studies it properly. But for now, it remains a mystery only partly glimpsed. As your ship aligns to depart, you perform a gentle roll so that your observation window faces the ring one more time. The star's dim light catches the edges of the debris, giving it a faint sparkle. In those glints, you almost imagine you can see shapes, like the spirits of the long-gone builders waving farewell, or perhaps urging you onward to carry their memory to others. Farewell, you murmur, voice soft, as if addressing the whole system. Your light and story will travel with me. It's a promise and a prayer of sorts. Then, with a quiet burn of thrusters, your ship sets off beyond the bounds of that forgotten realm, leaving the silent monuments to keep their vigil around their faded sun. In the days following your encounter with the silent station, your thoughts turn increasingly philosophical and introspective. Each quiet evening, as you float near the observation window and gaze at the stars, you find yourself pondering the broader tapestry of existence. The ruins you left behind weigh on your mind, but not as a haunting, rather as a profound lesson about impermanence and legacy in the cosmos. You consider how many civilizations might have risen and fallen in the galaxy's long history. Perhaps countless ones, like brief fireworks sparking in the dark, each illuminating a corner of the universe for a time before fading. The species you encountered were one. Humanity is another, still in its youth. Will we someday share the same fate, leaving behind drifting echoes for some future wanderer to find? The thought is humbling. In the face of cosmic time, even the greatest achievements of intelligence might be as fleeting as a sigh. Yet, even knowing this, there is something beautiful in the striving. The way those beings built their ring around a star, aspired to harness creation, left art on their walls. It speaks of a universal drive to explore, to build, to express meaning in the vastness. Perhaps this drive is what connects all life, however brief its spark. You find comfort in believing that you are following a path others have trodden, even if separated by eons. In a way, their spirit lives on in you as you carry knowledge of them forward. One quiet night, as the ship's lights are dimmed to mimic dusk, you hold a small vigil in your heart for all the lost civilizations. With a cup of tea in hand, anchored in your chair, you whisper into the darkness. To all of you out there who came before, or who are out there now, I hope you are at peace. I hope your dreams carried on. The only answer is the soft hum of the ship. Yet you feel as though the universe hears you in its own subtle way. Staring out, you notice a cluster of stars twinkling together. Perhaps a distant globular cluster, a tight ball of ancient suns. You wonder if within that densely packed swarm, any minds ever flourished. What would they have been like under skies crowded with stars 100 times more numerous than on Earth's sky? Would they have felt less alone, seeing so many suns close by? Or would it have been overwhelming? Your mind drifts further beyond concrete civilizations to the notion of cosmic intelligences that might exist on scales or in forms beyond your current comprehension. After all, if life could arise on a planet and become beings who build stations, who is to say life or consciousness cannot take other forms, perhaps there are entities that live in the hearts of nebulae, slow-thinking clouds of ionized gas that ponder over millennia and communicate with the light of newborn stars. Or perhaps the galaxy itself has a kind of collective consciousness, each star a neuron in an unfathomably large brain, flickering with thoughts that last millions of years. These ideas sound fanciful, but out here, far from the familiar, you entertain them earnestly. You recall reading a speculative essay once that suggested that sufficiently advanced civilizations might upload themselves into patterns of electromagnetic fields, or even neutron star cores, becoming practically invisible and immortal. Could it be that some of those pulses you hear are actually lighthouses left by ancient beings, or even enclaves of their consciousness, ticking away the eons? There's no evidence, just the wild leap of imagination, but you allow yourself to leap. If one truth has become clear, it's that the universe is stranger and more vast than any one species' understanding. Another thought emerges, one that sends a slight chill and thrill through you. What if even now some intelligence observes you, just as you observe the stars? Not in a paranoid sense, but perhaps like how we watch a small bird making a long migration, quietly, from afar, wishing it well. Could there be eyes, or senses unlike eyes, that noticed when your ship lit its engines near that derelict star? Something ancient and gentle, choosing not to interfere, but to simply witness. In the solitude of your cabin, under the shimmer of starlight through the window, you can almost feel a presence. Benign, curious, patient. Perhaps it's only your mind trying to fill the void with company. But then again, perhaps not entirely. You think of the concept of gods. How on earth, Humans once peopled the heavens with deities to make sense of the unknown. Thunder had Thor, the ocean had Poseidon, the night sky had gods and heroes placed among the constellations. We named what we feared and loved. Now, as a spacefarer, you confront the unknown directly, and though you do not believe in the old gods literally, you sense a kind of divinity in the cosmos itself. Not as a single being, but as an awe-inspiring tapestry where every thread, every star, planet, person, civilization, even particle, has its role in a grand pattern too complex to see fully. Perhaps what we call the divine is just the totality of all consciousness and matter, an intelligence diffused in all things. And if that is so, then you are not truly alone. You cannot be, for you are part of this cosmic whole. The very atoms of your body were born in stars and will return to stars. The thoughts you think now are like tiny eddies in a vast flowing river of existence. Even the silent station and its vanished people remain as eddies that have left a subtle imprint on the currents of time. Nothing is lost, only changed. These reflections bring you a measure of peace. You find yourself speaking softly, perhaps to that imagined presence, or to the universe itself. I know I'm just one small being in all of this, but I am here. I am listening. If there is anyone or anything out there that hears me, I send you greetings. I hope you are well, whoever or whatever you are. Your voice sounds calm and firm, cutting through the hush. You half expect no response, and indeed, there is none audible. But in your heart, you feel a warmth, like an answer that comes not in words, but in a gentle emotion. Perhaps it's simply self-comfort, or perhaps just maybe, it's something greater stirring. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, letting the quiet envelop you. The ship drifts on through space, the stars slowly sliding in their courses outside. In the distance, a cluster of bright stars forms an almost circular pattern, reminding you of the mural's depicted ring. It makes you think, across space, symbols repeat. Circles, spirals, rings, from galaxy shapes to orbits to ancient rock carvings on Earth. Could it be that there are common motifs in the minds of different beings, inspired by the shared geometry of the cosmos? It's a thought that we may all derive inspiration from the same well, the structure of reality itself. As you prepare to rest, you find yourself humming a gentle tune, perhaps something you heard long ago, or something improvised now. It's a lullaby to the stars, a wordless melody that drifts through the cabin. You like to think perhaps an alien ear somewhere might recognize the sentiment, if not the tune, a song of seeking and hope. The notes echo softly, and you finally let the melody taper into silence. Tonight, you feel especially thoughtful, but also especially tired. The emotional weight of the past days, the awe, the sorrow, the philosophizing has gently exhausted you. Your body and mind crave true rest, not just a short nap, but a deep, dream-rich sleep. You secure the ship on its course, all systems steady, and dim the last of the lights. Before retreating to your sleeping quarters, you make one last observation out the window. The stars are bright and clear. Among them, for just a moment, you fancy you see a subtle pattern, almost like a face or a form outlined by the constellations unfamiliar to Earth. Perhaps just an illusion of connecting the dots. It looks a bit like a large figure with outstretched arms, embracing the void. You blink, and it's gone, or transformed into something else unrecognizable. With a faint smile, you push off from the window and make your way to your bunk. As you lie down and close your eyes, you hold these thoughts lightly, like fragile glass orbs in your mind, and you allow yourself to drift. Maybe in my dreams, you think, I will find some answers or meet some friends among the stars. And with that hopeful intention, you surrender to sleep, letting the vast questions of the universe melt into the background as the gentle currents of slumber pull you into their embrace. And in sleep, a dream unfolds. You find yourself standing on the deck of your ship, but the walls and ceiling are gone. The boundaries between you and space have vanished. You are under an infinite sky of stars, yet you feel no fear or cold. The Milky Way arcs above you as a river of light. The gentle dark around is warm and alive with a subtle radiance. In the dream, you realize you are not wearing a suit, yet you can breathe easily. The air, or what feels like air, carries a faint fragrance, something like distant rain mixed with stardust, a scent impossible in waking life. You take a step forward and your foot finds solid ground, though you see nothing beneath, but the glow of a nebula like a carpet of clouds. It's as if an invisible floor made of starlight itself supports you. Somewhere, a music begins to play. Or perhaps it was there all along, and you are only now noticing it. It's a low, resonant humming, like a choir of countless voices blending into one harmonious tone. It has no words, but it fills your heart with emotion, solace, love, longing, and joy all at once. You look up to locate the source of this celestial song and realize that each star above contributes a note. They are singing. The stars are singing. The pulsar you visited sends out a rhythmic pulse in the distance, a steady percussion in the symphony. Other stars provide sustained chords. You hear the gentle tinkling of what might be small, bright blue stars adding high, bell-like notes. It's the music of the cosmos, the song of the dead stars and living stars alike, joined in chorus. As you listen, figures begin to emerge around you, formed of the same dim starlight that suffuses everything. They are translucent, ethereal. One is tall and slender, with 4 arms and a crested head. You recognize it from the mural on the alien station. An ancient being from that lost civilization, recreated here in dream. Nearby, another form takes shape. A human figure, perhaps someone you once knew. They feel familiar, though their features are soft and glowing, hard to define. More figures appear. You see what looks like a child skipping along the invisible floor, leaving little trails of light with each step, laughing silently. An old man or woman with a staff, their face kind and wise. Even an animal-like shape. A great winged creature that might be a dragon or phoenix, from some myth, flying overhead. Your heart might gasp in the dream, but you feel calm, as though all of this is natural. These presences gather not to frighten, but to accompany you. They seem to acknowledge you with gentle nods, or smiles in their eyes. The alien being with 4 arms comes closer, standing beside you. Though its face is not human, you sense friendliness and welcome. It raises one of its arms and points upward, as if drawing your attention to the stars and the music. When you follow its gesture, you see the stars swirling, slowly at first, then more dynamically. They are rearranging into shapes and patterns. Constellations, new and old, morph overhead. You see, drawn in points of light, the outline of a great tree, its roots and branches spanning the sky, perhaps the cosmic world tree that ancient earth myths spoke of, connecting heaven and earth. The tree's leaves shimmer as galaxies, then it shifts, and the constellation becomes a great eye, not menacing but watchful and wise, winking once as if in knowing. Then that too dissolves and becomes two hands joined together across space, fingers interlaced, unity. Tears of awe gather in your eyes, but these tears do not fall. They simply add to your own glow, which you now notice. You too are softly shining in this dreamscape, as if your body has become part star. The music rises in a swell, and you feel a loving presence all around. It's as if the entire universe has manifested consciousness here, just to reassure you. The human-like figure that felt familiar steps forward now. Though their face is luminous and shifting, for a moment you think you see your mother's eyes, or perhaps a dear friend's smile. Or is it even your own face from years ago? Maybe it is all of them. They gently take your hand. You feel warmth radiating from that touch, and a golden light threads between your fingers. No words are spoken, but you understand the message as clearly as if it were spoken in your ear. You are not alone. We are all here with you. The alien figure places one of its hands on your other shoulder, a light touch that conveys empathy and gratitude. Gratitude from them to you, perhaps for remembering them. The winged mythic creature swoops low and wraps you briefly in what feels like a soft breeze, a playful gesture of blessing. Every entity around you, human, alien, symbolic or divine, forms a circle with you at the center. They are all looking at you with kindness. You realize you represent the living, waking world among them, the traveler carrying their songs. Though no one speaks aloud, you hear a chorus of thoughts like a whisper in your mind, coming from all directions. Go on, little voyager. We are with you. When you sing, we sing. When you remember, we live. Do not be afraid of the dark. It is full of us, full of love. The exact words may not be precise, but this is the essence that fills your being. Overwhelmed by the beauty and comfort, you find yourself lifting off the ground, not with fear, but with a sense of elation. You float upward, and the figures below gently release you. The human figure lets go of your hand with a parting squeeze. The alien lowers its arm. The others look up and wave or simply beam goodwill. You drift higher among the stars, feeling their song vibrate through every atom of you. You twirl slowly in space, arms outstretched like a dancer in slow motion. Now you are part of the stars. You open your mouth and find that you too can sing in this dream. A single pure note escapes your lips, joining the celestial music. It's soft at first, but you pour your heart into it. All the emotions of your journey, the loneliness, the wonder, the sorrow, the hope, crystallize into this wordless song. And as you sing, you realize your voice is harmonizing perfectly with the others. 1,000 distant lights brighten, as if in response, twinkling in rhythm. Time in this dream has no meaning. The song could last an eternity or a second. It envelops you entirely, and you surrender to it gladly, feeling more alive and connected than ever before. Eventually, gently, the music begins to fade, like an orchestra reaching the end of a grand symphony. The stars dim to their normal brightness. The glowing figures around you fade one by one, smiling until they are gone, like lanterns blowing out softly. The alien being is the last to disappear, and just before its image flickers away, it raises one hand in what looks unmistakably like a gesture of farewell and blessing combined, perhaps the equivalent of a wave or a salute across the light years. You feel a tender ache as it vanishes, but also a profound gratitude. You find yourself once more alone in the starry expanse, still glowing faintly. There is no fear, only tranquility. The cosmic stage that had arisen for this dream performance now slowly dissolves into a gentle haze. You feel yourself drifting downward, back to the plane of ordinary slumber, the supernatural clarity of the dream beginning to soften. Before everything goes dark in sleep, you hear one last sound, a delicate chord, like the final gentle strum of a harp, echoing from everywhere and nowhere. It's a goodbye and a promise, all in one. Then you sink deeper into silent, restorative sleep, with a tear of joy tracing your cheek. The dream leaves a delicate imprint on your mind, one that will carry forward into waking, even if details slip away. In the darkness behind your closed eyes, there lingers the impression of being held, being part of something infinitely larger and compassionate. All through the remainder of your slumber, your face carries a calm, contented expression, and your heart beats in quiet harmony with the universe around you. Sometime later, you awaken from that profound sleep, feeling truly rested and comforted. There's a renewed lightness in your chest, a residue of the dream's reassurance still with you. As you bring the ship's controls back into focus, a gentle alert catches your attention. You have reached a planned vantage point, one you had set months ago. Slowly, you make your way to the observation window, anticipation building with each small push and glide. When you look outside, you gasp softly. The view is unlike any you have seen before. You are at the very outskirts of the Milky Way, high above its galactic plane, and the entire galaxy lies spread out before you. A dazzling spiral tapestry against the black velvet of intergalactic space. It's as if someone has set a jewel in the sky, a whirlpool of light and structure suspended in nothingness. The Milky Way's disk is a luminous band, thick at the center, where the galactic core glows bright with the combined light of billions of stars. From that core, spiral arms unwind gracefully, tinted with strokes of blue, from clusters of young stars and reddish nebulae where new suns are being born. Dark lanes of cosmic dust weave between the arms, just as they appear from inside the galaxy. But from this perspective, you see them as the skeletal structure of the great whirl. The entire galaxy has a subtle iridescence, like mother of pearl, shining softly amid the darkness. Your ship hovers in the halo of the galaxy. Looking down, you see the massive shining disk of stars. Looking up, you see the infinite depth of space, with other distant galaxies peaking as tiny smudges and points of light. There, to one side, is the Andromeda Galaxy, a delicate oval of faint light, a neighbour awaiting in the void. And around the Milky Way, like companions, you see a few globular clusters glinting, and the small fuzzy patches that must be the Magellanic Clouds, the satellite galaxies. It's a panorama of an entire galactic ecosystem. For a long while, You simply float at the window, eyes roaming over the spectacle. It's almost too much to take in. You find yourself smiling and also wiping a tear away, because the grandeur is tinged with a poignant understanding. Somewhere in that colossal swirl of stars is a tiny star, and around that star, a blue planet, your Earth. From here you cannot distinguish it at all. The whole solar system is lost in that brilliance, one pixel in an ocean. All the history of humanity, every laugh, every tear, every triumph and tragedy, all of it contained in that imperceptible point. You recall a notion once expressed by an Earth astronomer, that from a sufficient distance one could hold up a thumb and block the entire planet Earth from view. Here and now, you could raise your thumb and hide not just Earth, but the entire constellation of the solar neighborhood. Indeed, an entire arm of the galaxy. It gives you a shivering sense of perspective. Yet having journeyed this far, instead of making you feel insignificant, this perspective feels liberating and unifying. Because you also know that on that invisible blue dot, people once looked up and wondered, and one of them became you, crossing the gulf to see this sight. You are both apart from and a part of that tapestry. Perhaps you even whisper, "I wish you could see what I see," addressing anyone and everyone back home. In your mind, you imagine countless eyes seeing through your own, marveling collectively. In a way, you are their witness, their emissary to the stars. Your gaze travels along the spiral arms. There are regions you pass through on your journey. You think you can identify roughly where that pulsar's nebula might be, and maybe the star of the Silent Ring civilization, though from here they are indistinct specks among specks. Still, it fills you with a quiet pride and sadness to know you've traversed part of that spiral, to have your personal story woven into the galaxy's vast story. Somewhere in the core, perhaps other civilizations bustle, or maybe the core's radiation is too fierce for life. Out towards the edges, perhaps pioneers from some world are just now taking their first steps into space. The thought that there could be others like you scattered through that shining disk, lone travelers or whole societies, makes the galaxy seem less a cold expanse and more like a living, breathing organism with myriad hearts beating in the stars. You take a series of photographs with the ship's panoramic camera, making sure to document this awe-inspiring view. But you also take mental photographs, committing the image to memory with deliberate care. The way the core glows golden, the way one spiral arm has a brighter patch where a star cluster burns hot, the way the emptiness around the galaxy is so stark by contrast, truly emphasizing how all the light is gathered in that one island in the void. Your ship drifts gently, occasionally a slight orientation thruster fires to keep it steady relative to a chosen reference point. These motions cause the galaxy in the window to tilt or shift slowly, as if you are flying around the Milky Way like a curious bird inspecting a tree. At one point, you find yourself directly above the galactic center, looking down at it like a mandala of light. You are struck by a sense of holiness, not in a religious sense of any single creed, but in the way one finds something sacred in pure natural beauty and complexity. It's a sight that compels silence, a silence of reverence. Your thoughts float back to all the themes that have filled your journey: loneliness and connection, endings and beginnings, reality and imagination. Here, on the precipice of the galaxy, they all seem to come together. The loneliness is tempered by the tangible presence of billions of stars all around. The connection is broadened to a cosmic scale. Endings, like that civilization's end, find context in the ongoing spiral where new stars are forming. Beginnings, like your own journey's start, are just threads in a much larger weave. Reality, the physical galaxy you see, merges with imagination, as you can't help seeing patterns and stories in its structure, almost like that dream tapestry of constellations come to life again. Perhaps you speak a few words into your log or whisper to yourself, just to capture the moment. I am at the edge of the Milky Way, looking back at everything that was once home. It is breathtaking. It is home, and yet not home. I feel both tiny and enormous, a child of the universe cradled by the stars. I wish I could share this directly, but I will do my best to remember for all time. Your voice cracks slightly with emotion, so you fall quiet again. The next leg of your journey lies ahead, beyond the galactic frontier, toward whatever destination or destiny you have chosen. Perhaps the lure of the next galaxy, or perhaps a grand loop above the Milky Way's halo, before diving back in to explore more. But you do not rush. This moment is too precious, and you allow yourself as long as you need to simply be present and absorb the wonder. Eventually, as with all things, you must move on. You input new commands to the navigation system. The ship slowly rotates until the galaxy is now behind you. Facing forward, you see the deep unknown of intergalactic space. A darkness speckled only by faint, far-off galaxies. It's a new kind of void, one even quieter and more immense than the spaces between stars. To voyage there is to step into an almost mythic realm of isolation. And yet, after all you've experienced, you feel ready, or as ready as one can be. You carry your home within you now, the memories, the wisdom, the companionship of ghosts and dreams. The stars behind have your back, quite literally, and the stars ahead beckon. As the engines fire up with a low, distant rumble, you take one last look over your shoulder. Figuratively, for the ship's rear cameras can show you the Milky Way receding. The galaxy shines like a beacon, a lighthouse marking the shore of all you've ever known. Farewell for now, you murmur. It's not a goodbye forever, because in the grand cosmic dance, who knows, perhaps your path will curve, and one day, in the far future, bring you back toward that collection of stars. Or perhaps not. Either way, its light will remain with you. Your vessel accelerates gently. Stars, galaxies, and nebulas ahead begin to elongate in a subtle way as you pick up speed, preparing for another long cruise. You secure the ship's functions on autopilot for the next stretch, a routine you've done many times. The hum of the drive becomes a familiar lullaby in the background. Floating back from the console, you return to the observation area. Now the view in front is the expanse of intergalactic night. The Milky Way is now a radiant patch off to the side, slowly shrinking. Ahead, maybe a faint smudge that is another galaxy, a new target, though it might take millennia. It doesn't matter. You will take it one step at a time, one dream at a time. You feel a deep sense of calm and fulfillment. The anxieties you once had are quiet, like small waves on a vast calm sea. In their place is a steady faith in your journey, in the universe, in the connections that bind all things. The dream, the experiences, the revelations of perspective, all have contributed to this peace. Once again, you dim the cabin lights to a gentle twilight. The stars outside seem to glow a little brighter in contrast. You choose a comfortable spot near the window where you can gaze out at the sleeping universe. With the galaxy's glow at your back and the infinite possibilities of the unknown before you, you draw a soft blanket around your shoulders, one of the few cozy indulgences you brought from Earth, and relax utterly into the moment. Your eyes grow heavy, but not out of weariness alone, also out of contentment. Maybe you will watch the galaxy until it becomes just another star itself in the distance. Or maybe you will drift into another serene sleep long before then. Either way is fine. For the first time in a long while, you feel truly at home wherever you are. Because you realize that home is not a single planet or place. Home is the cosmos, and you are a beloved child of it, wandering but never lost. As you let yourself float in that half-dreamy state, thoughts, slow and quiet, the last conscious image you hold on to is that of countless stars glimmering around you, like friendly candles in an endless hall. In this meditative silence, you close your eyes, heart full of wonder and tranquility. The starship carries you onward, a tiny speck moving through a boundless dream, and wrapped in the gentle darkness, cradled by starlight and hope, you continue your journey, forever wandering the interstellar dreamscape in peace.